When the PlayStation Classic came out in December 2018 with a $100 price tag and 20 pre-installed games, I panned the thing. I stood up in a sea of people that thought this thing was awesome, and I said, this is awful, and it's not really delivering enough. And it ended up delivering enough when the system got modded, first with Bleem Sync, then Auto Bleem, and now today, Project Eris, which came out about a year ago. I got around to trying out on this system that I bought at a bargain bin price and kind of had laying around since, using it periodically every time I want to go back and play a PlayStation 1 game. This is what I do it on because I think that it's the most authentic feeling way to do it without actually having the real true system and true discs to do it with. So I tend to go back and play PlayStation 1 games on this, but I don't really use it for emulation until now. And of course, RetroArch has been around on the PlayStation Classic for quite some time, but it seems like its performance has really improved to the point where the PlayStation Classic is really just an easier to set up Raspberry Pi in a lot of ways. And for that reason, it's something that I recommend you pick up, despite the fact that the system now goes for something like $60 to $80 used, when there was a period of time where you could feasibly pick one up on a store shelf for $30 when they were clearancing them out. But regardless, I think this is definitely something worth picking up today because installing Project Eris on a little USB flash drive to plug in here is really simple and quite straightforward, and getting RetroArch running is actually remarkably better performing, I think, than you'd expect from this system. I've seen Nintendo 64 games running very well on this using the Extreme cores that came out maybe something like 6 months ago. And of course, you need a special controller with a joystick to probably optimally play those games. Just using the regular PlayStation Classic gamepad, I've been finding myself getting interested in the possibility of using this as a device to play GBA games on my TV. Looking at Pokemon Emerald here just in the opening segments, you can see that it's emulating the game well. The performance is great, but it's also sped up a little bit. In my video a couple weeks ago where I talked about using the Pizza Boy emulator for Android on my phone more and more to play Leaf Green, the big selling point for me was the fact that I could fast forward these games. If you go back and you play a Pokemon game today, especially one of the Game Boy ones, they just feel so slow. Even the DS ones too. A little bit faster on the Switch, but the Game Boy ones, they just feel remarkably slow to play. Everything seems to happen at a snail's pace, and battles just quite frankly go on for too long, and there was always my wish that I could accelerate that somehow. The PlayStation Classic can do that, but not only on the GBA, it can accelerate the DS games as well. Now, of course, with DS emulation on a single screen, I've always said, DS games I think are best played on the original hardware, maybe on the Wii U, because like I've shown on the Wii U, you can have the bottom screen of the DS on your actual gamepad controller, have the top screen on your TV. That's pretty cool. But on the PlayStation Classic, of course, single screen, so you can have them side by side, or you can do a full screen image like I've done and actually just flip between the screens using one of the trigger buttons on the controller. This effectively makes it be possible to play these games in a blown up manner, but actually at an increased speed, which that speed increase, again, is something that's such a big selling point for me when I'm going back and playing these older Pokemon games. I think overall it makes the game be much more exciting and just requires me to pay a little bit more attention than I would otherwise if the text was showing up slowly and I was having to see every battle animation play out at its regular speed. So this is something I can't do on an actual DS or on the Wii U Virtual Console injection that I was able to make for that system. So in a lot of ways, this might be the best way for me to go back and play these Pokemon DS games, which is something that I never would have thought of. And of course, you could do the same thing on your computer. That has the processing power, assumably, to speed up a DS game. But if you haven't played any of the Pokemon fan-made ROM hacks, I think that doing that specifically through the Game Boy emulator on here is a great way to go. There's also some Super Nintendo games I have in here on Emulation Station that I want to try, games that I've always kind of had a hankering for maybe playing and I've never got around to, but with a fast forward feature on some of these RPGs, I think it'll make it be that much more enjoyable. And Emulation Station, just kind of overall, it's just a nice way of looking at those classic games on a device like this. It's better than navigating RetroArch, though it uses RetroArch to actually play the games, which gets you great emulation for these games, but it does so in a way that displays it just beautifully on the front end. You will see that for the DS games, I actually opened up a separate app, the Drawstick app, and I had not used the emulator built into RetroArch. This Drawstick app will get you better performance on the PlayStation Classic than just straight up using the RetroArch core. I think it's mostly for these 2D games, some of these RPGs, Pokemon games, whatnot, that I want to be able to fast forward, and this device gives me the capability to do that when so many other modded systems aren't able to. I know that other RetroArch capable systems like the PlayStation 3 have the fast forward feature. However, fast forwarding on the PlayStation 3, for instance, doesn't really make any difference. As far as I can tell, it's virtually running at the exact same speed, and for that reason I think that this is a remarkable system. It's crazy how far it has came from where it started as just this 20 game console. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Bailey, and I will see you in the next video.